Who's going to check them? Who's going to say something?
All they have to do is say racist, racist.
Pull the race card.
And the white man just bow down. They're using people of color to like sick them, take the same old soup and warm it up again. What make it more sinister is that our government is beginning right now through the act of Congress to sell out America. America is for sale.
Hot topic. Border crisis has been shaped up as, or there's a lot going on down on the southern border of the United States, Arizona, Texas. A lot of those southern states seem to be negatively impacted. A lot of the policies and the decisions that are being made in DC are kind of the top of everyone's mind right now. There seems to be a polarizing view here. There's some people who think that, U.S. is the home of the free, land of the brave. Send us your poor, send us your needy. And there are lots of people who have actual issues that they're dealing with. Some people are freeing under asylum and they're trying to get places of refuge and safety. And then there's some people who may be coming in for other reasons. We know there's a huge drug trafficking problem at the border, human trafficking. All those are point of topic right now. But with the last report that I saw, there's something close to 11 million people, bordering on 13 million by end of the year, who are going to be in the United States over the past 3.5 years. And that's 100% based on the numbers that are reported of illegal immigrants. These are people who have not gone through the usual vetting process. It kind of feels like an open border right now. But with all that going on, what is your take on the current situation, especially with this being a Christian nation and we're supposed to be accommodating and accepting? What should be the Christian perspective?
Well, the first thing is the legal perspective. And the Bible itself is a book of law, the Old Testament, the New Testament, likewise. Love is the principal thing, but law and the order is also more important. If you travel anywhere in the world, you basically need two things to enter into a country. Lawfully, you need a passport, and you need perhaps a visa if required. Also, in order for a country to be a nation, they must have 4 qualifying factors. You need a population, you need land, you need government, and you need borders. And when a government says that it does not have a border or does not want to defend this border, then everyone, both in Congress and in the executive branch and at the judicial branch, who violate the oath of office, where they swear to uphold the Constitution, to protect the citizens of this land, they themselves are lawbreakers and transgressors of their own law. All should be prosecuted because all have, in essence, began to undermine the rule of law and destroy this nation wholeheartedly. So we're in a fix right now. We do not have a nation. We did not have a country. We did not have a rule of law. We don't have executive branch that's functioning properly. We don't have Congress that's also in violation of all of its own laws. And we have the president suing states for upholding federal laws when the federal government's supposed to do that. Mm-hmm. You see there's a civil war going on, and the end will not be good for the citizens of this nation, as you've already described.
So the counterpoint that I've heard, and ironically, is usually from people who aren't believers or aren't Christians, but they say as a Christian, we should be accepting any and everyone in because it's the right thing to do. But you mentioned there are laws. We know the Bible, the Lord specifically said, obey the laws of the land. So there seems to be a point of contention there that not everyone seems to wrap their head around.
But in Article 1 of the Constitution, it speaks about the fact that Congress has the enumerated powers to regulate immigration. And because it has not done this task, therefore, our nation has gone amok. This has been going on now for the past probably about 30 years, systematically with different increments of mass, immigration illegally, and then also those who have come in trickles. But one thing I can say, that if the government does not function, the Constitution requires that the people rise up and that they also vote those individuals out of office, both Democrats and Republicans, because you mentioned earlier about this divide and conquer strategy. Most people now who have paid close attention to politics realize that there isn't a one political party in America, just one.
The uniparty, they're referring to it as now.
And that party is one bird with two extreme wings, a extreme right and extreme left. Generally, the Republicans are called the extreme right, and the Democrats are called the extreme left. When you have the Democratic Communist Party and Republican Fascist Party working in concert with one another, again, the citizens don't have a chance unless they come in mass numbers and vote those who are in office out of office, especially those who've been there for a long time, to get the mafia out of Congress, which are the party bosses who are controlled by many other external forces, and have them do what they're supposed to do.
So I'm understanding, it's common knowledge almost, there are enough illegal immigrants that have entered the country in the past 3.5 years that have equaled the 11th largest state in the U.S. If you just took the total number of illegal immigrants, that number continues to climb. It's an estimate. It's a conservative estimate because there are people that are documented illegal immigrants. Is almost an oxymoron in itself. And we know the number of those individuals. And then you have another group of gotaways, and they can't really track that. That number
Exactly.
more than likely far exceeds the number of documented illegal immigrants. That said, it definitely seems like there is a sinister work at play when the government has their eyes wide open. A lot of people feel some type of way about that, but I don't know. It almost has that Trojan horse effect, for a lack of a better term.
Trojan horse, for those who remember Greek mythology and also Greek history, understand what happened in Troy, and that our government evidently is actually about 50 million people over the past 30 years that have come across our borders and are scattered about. That's about 1/6 of the U.S. population. In fact, the state of North Dakota only has 750,000 people in the state. Montana, North Dakota, and also let's see, the states in northwestern part of the U.S. only have about 1 million, like Idaho, 1 million people per state. When you have 1 million people come across the border in 3 months or 4 months, then you have actually brought in an entire state of people. This will forever change the population. This will ever change also the political dynamics of this nation. And more importantly, with China and Russia bringing in all of its savory individuals in this nation.
Military age, fighting men.
Exactly. What do you think about this year? Young man, you're a young man. What is our government doing in the respect by which bringing all the people who are not families, but men and gangs from all over the world, Middle Eastern countries coming in this country to perhaps bring havoc and mayhem in our nation?
I mean, there's a lot of play. I think we have examples in Europe. You look at the intentional open border policies that many European nations, they have
Especially
a negative.
France and Germany.
Yeah, exactly. Negative birth rates. They don't have enough people being born to they kind of turn a blind eye, or they willingly allow people in. But along with that, you get your merry band of nefarious characters, be it gangsters, people in drug mules, or whatever it may be.
Coyotes bringing people illegally.
Yeah.
Women, the sex trafficking, the weapons coming across the borders, and gangs as well. So what we have right here, there seems to be a deliberate sabotage to destroy America. Economically, it's almost like a kamikaze destruction of America, by which all these people coming, getting cars, they're getting money, Visa cards. And Chicago, the black folks there and the others in New York, stunned that no money has been made available for them. But right now, they have $80 million available for all this illegal, kicking people out of schools. Illegals are coming to schools. Kids have been sent home for virtual learning. What is going on in America? What's so sad about this is American people still not in an uproar.
Asleep. Yeah.
Are we in a comatose state right now?
I think
is America dead on the inside, the outside? What's going on?
I think
with this Trojan horse dynamic that's taking place in our country.
100% being rocked to sleep by all types of distractions between sports.
Being rocked to sleep?
Knocked to sleep, punched in the face to sleep, whatever it may be. But plenty of distractions out there between sports, pornography, the internet, TikTok. There's just so much. Young people.
Oh, it's not just drug addiction. It's all kinds of addictions.
That's true. Yeah. Addictions in all its forms. But I think probably the larger conversation is about the people who are making these decisions. They are allegedly our elected officials who say one thing, then when they get in office, they seem to do something completely different.
I got you. So here we go again with that so-called two-party theory. There's no two parties in America. There's only one. Two extremes. To divide the ignorant masses and to divide and what? Conquer. That's not a song. If it is, it's our epitaph. It's our funeral. Play the fiddle, right?
8 billion people, I'm sure someone made a song about it, for sure.
We're in trouble.
Yeah.
And America don't even know it.
Yeah.
Lord help us.
Well, I mean, But I will say, at the end of the day, it's well documented. It's a documented strategy. They've written books about it. But globalists, through and through, largely have the same agenda, and it's to decrease the world's population, to remove barriers, to have a centralized government, to have more control over the people by a few. And it's really wealthy people with the same ideas. And I think that's we're starting to see the fruit of their 50 plus years of labor.
Understood. Well, anyway, America's in trouble. Ladies and gentlemen, wake up, America.
Yeah. Enjoy your luxuries while you got it.
You know, it's amazing that for the past 50 years, I've been examining geopolitics, looking at religion, looking at science and history, and also the Bible in the context of religion. And it seems like everything that's going on today is very prophetic. It's according to the script. Unfortunately, it seems that men do not know the role that they are playing. I understand in geopolitics that, and in sociology, how that in order to set up a new world order, you must destroy the old world order. And the anarchy seems to be what is expressed all over the globe, especially in this country. So how do you think, as we look and examine these issues concerning illegal immigration and the issue of confronting our nation economically, how do you think this is happening and filling, I guess, the biblical script?
Yeah, that's a complex question with a very simple answer. I know, Satan is obviously, he's been around from the very beginning, since Adam and Eve first sinned in the garden. His ways are exact same.
Hasn't changed his MO, right?
No, hasn't changed at all. The Bible,
if it works, why change it, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
you have a football game, you have the play always work, bread and butter play, and it works every time. Why change it?
You get a new crop of people every, everyone gets about 80 to 100 years, with the exception of some of these Old Testament people who live for hundreds and hundreds of years. But for the most part, he gets to play the same pranks every time, same trips.
He's a liar. He's a deceiver.
Yeah.
The father of lies, the Bible says in John chapter 8.
Yep.
Verse 44.
Laying traps. And now the Bible is interesting because it tells us in advance all the things that are going to happen before the Lord returns. We know when the Lord returns, the state of the world. We kind of get to see the pieces of the puzzle fall into place, sometimes very quickly, other times very slowly. I know that first century church, they were expecting Jesus to come back immediately after he died. He did come back very quickly, but he also went away, and he said he was going to stay there until there was
things had been fulfilled.
Exactly.
And in the book of Revelation, it speaks about that there will come one day a one world government, a one world political system, economic system, and a one world religious system.
Exactly.
And all that is unfolding right before our very eyes. Yep. And seeing that the church seemed oblivious to this, above all, people should know, they don't seem to know.
Yeah.
And politically, how they vote, how they respond, how they act is not in sync with the scriptures. And I'm just dumbfounded that people who claim to believe in the Bible know so little about it.
Yeah, I mean, we have a role to play in the final script, as you talked about, and I think there's that place where some people ignorantly are. I mean, it's what do you do? It's the Lord tells us the timeline. He knows that not everyone's going to be saved. He talks about he's going to sift the church, separate the tares from the wheat. There's people, a small remnant of people who remain faithful. They're not going to cave in. They're not going to give into the one world system. And even though it's unveiling before our eyes, the watchmen on the wall, who should be the pastors, the teachers, the preachers, the evangelists, they're many of them
oblivious, it seems like.
Yeah, oblivious, or they're not spirit filled and they just run around with those titles and they don't have technically the license nor the spirit to discern the time. So I think because of that, you have a church that's in shambles and they're unprepared, they're half naked, and the world, they're going about they're doing their job, they're fulfilling their end of the script, and places like Russia, China are taking full advantage, and the U.S. is just seemingly falling right into that trap.
So anarchy is a means by which it's a temporary state, a transition form of government. It's not a real form of government. Anarchy generally leads to chaos, like Black Lives Matter, which is a communist organization. They're definitely not pro-family. They took $90 billion and ran away with it, right? They're not bringing the money back to the Black community. You have Antifa, the white antithesis of that, and they're anarchists as well. And interesting, George Floyd, even though it's so tragic his death, yet and still it caused a global movement towards anarchy.
Yeah.
And destroying all stable governments. Want to get rid of the police? You want to get rid of your borders?
And we were falling for it. People were falling for it.
And they, humanitarian purposes, Christians, and even, yes, people of color. All right. It seems like the world is using people of color to destroy this nation. I look at all those who are in high places today. some of our black mayors, the things they've done, like in New York, in Chicago, also attorney generals in New York, and also lives in the legal profession, mayors in major cities, and they're using that in Baltimore and in Washington, D.C. It seems like they're using people of color to like sick them, like with the View, with the leverage reviews, and then you have on Fox News, you have the Five. And everybody's going against one another. Again, that old strategy, divide and conquer.
If you
it works every time,
I was
doesn't it?
just gonna say, if you put
always fall for it.
put a person of
When
color
will they
out there-
ever learn?
I don't think they will. You shove a person of color in front of the camera, get them to push an agenda or a policy that probably doesn't feel right to most of the people, but because they're black, who's going to check them? Who's going to say something?
All they have to do is say racist, racist,
pull the race card.
and the white man just bow down.
Yeah.
All right. So it's a very, very good tactic. It works very well. It has worked very well right now to seduce many people. The law has blinded, I think, many, including the church, so that they themselves, like when Jesus told the Pharisees that had they known who he was, they never crucified what? The Lord of glory. So evidently, the script is being fulfilled, but the people don't know their role. It's amazing.
I randomly hear things, listening to podcasts, keeping track of the news, just trying to keep my pulse on the beat of the country. I came across an article that was talking about this new, I don't want to call it a scheme, but this tactic of people who are opportunists. I mean, it's America. They're purchasing large plots of land, hundreds of acres of property. They're parceling it out, breaking it up, and then they're selling it to illegal immigrants or people who just recently illegally entered the country, whatever you want to call them. And they're giving them incredible rates. Like you can have an acre of land for as little as $100 down, and then it's an incredibly high interest loan, and you have to pay it off over time. I want to say the default rate is something around 30%. It's a manageable amount of money, but the interest rate is ridiculous. And over time, 70% of the people will continue paying these incredibly high interest loans. And then the people who default, the property gets turned back over to the person who sold it to them, and they get to resell it to make money on top of money and just sell another ridiculous loan to someone who's undocumented.
All it is, you see, there's nothing new under the sun. Mm-hmm. Take the same old soup and warm it up again. Back in 2008, the mortgage-backed securities, that's what they did also.
Yeah.
They super inflated the houses. Wall Street made off like a killing. And also all the banks, the government went to bail them out, gave them $700 billion, gave it to the banks. What did the banks do? The banks brought up smaller banks, and then they went ahead and foreclosed on millions of American homes illegally, right? Because they knew that they could not pay, they could breathe, they could buy a house. But what something even more sinister than that, knowing that they're trying to repeat because they work to capitalize on the poor and put also those who are illegal in prisons to capitalize on them as well, because when they stay in there taking those beds, the private prisons are making money off that as well. What make it more sinister is that our government is beginning right now, through the act of Congress, to sell off our natural lands, government-owned lands, and do the exact same thing to them and sell them to China and the other international conglomerates to sell out America. America is for sale. We are right now $222 trillion, had to say that with emphasis, $1 trillion, right, in unfunded liabilities and $34 trillion in debt right now. We are so much in debt, Humpty Dumpty can't put us back together again.
What's the $1 trillion like a stack of $100 bills? Is it like 60 miles high?
It's 60 miles, and then you can add those up, and you can go to the moon a couple times and back. That's what we are. We are in such a bad shape. But this is, I call again, economic kamikaze. To destroy the nation, to set up a new world order in the area of finances, a cashless society. Remember in the book of Revelation 13, you can't buy, you can't sell. Right. We got experience of that with COVID, whereby with lockdowns, you couldn't get the paycheck unless you got your vaccination shot. That was torpedoed by Congress when Biden tried to force everybody to get vaccinations. So the government can't do it legally.
After a while.
But they can have the corporations do it.
Yeah.
Corporations make the mandates. That's called fascism, whereby the corporations implement government policies because they can't do it legally under the law. And so right now, America is in a change and a flux. The whole world is changing towards a cashless society where which you cannot buy or sell unless you have some form of ID. Now with brain implants for transhumanism and everything else, and microchip implants, they're no longer just the chips, but they're putting little films here in your forehead and also on your skin to allow you to all your transactions. We're moving to a whole nother world. Who would have thought that the world would change? And the Bible is real. It is real because God said it.
Yeah, and he referenced that. I mean, people are now finally connecting the dots. You know, the mark of the beast. That's something that the Book of Revelation talks about explicitly. It gives some context clues about what this mark is, what you will be able to do, what you won't be able to do unless you have the mark. And you know, the closer we get to the return of Christ, I heard a pastor say one time, it's almost like a veil being lifted. The closer you get to the return of Christ, it's almost like curtains of a play kind of raising up, and as he draws nearer, you understand more, you see more, you start to connect the dots. You need watchmen, pastors, people like yourself, warning the people, explaining things in real time as they're happening. But if the church is tone deaf, or if they're blind, or they're tuned out.
Could it be that when Jesus spoke to the 7 churches in the Book of Revelation, he said repeatedly, he that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit is saying to the church. God is always speaking, but people aren't always listening.
Yeah.
And as a result, that our nation right now is on the brink of destruction. And the world and the people in America don't even know it.
Yep.